Yeah, I think the danger in growing too fast, going, too wide and too thin is mission creep, right? If you're not staffed appropriately, if you don't have points of accountability and leadership that are equally focused on the missional potential and the ministry opportunity as you grow wider, I think it's very, very easy for it to fade into the background. But I do think it needs to be held in balance with somebody's got to be like the sales professional, right? The revenue person. Hey, we're growth. We're growth mode. We're that side of the business. And we know that there's another side of the business that's going to hold us accountable to staying deep enough and pushing deep enough. We have some tools that we use on the front end that are, there's nothing legally binding about them, but we have some tools that we use to gain alignment and some statements of intentions, some things that are pretty convicting. I mean, you have to do some soul searching and get on board and go deep in a conversation about what you feel called to and how you're going to do it. And we have found that if a group is willing to go there in conversation on the front end and kind of commit to what they feel called to and what they think the Lord has put on their heart, there's a level of sincerity there that's hard to fake. And if the sincerity is there, and again, they're being intentional and willing to be accountable to that intentionality over time, then we don't need to be prescriptive about here are the 5 things you need to measure. It doesn't need to look like that. At this point, we've got about 40 different things that people are tracking and measuring. And we're doing our best to categorize those and be able to roll those up to quantifiable data at a portfolio level that we can begin to efficiently communicate to investors in the market as to, hey, here's what progress might look like. Excuse me. But also recognizing that progress might not be up and to the right all the time, right? It's not like, hey, here's our AUM and it's going to grow up and to the right over time. There are going to be movements and seasons where things are coming to bear on the ministry side and seasons where they're not. So we're working through how do we meld what is a very difficult thing to quantify? How do we meld that with measurables and things that we can gather? It's an art. There are groups in the secular world that are noticing the same things we are in terms of pouring into and investing in community. And that might be a financial investment as well. But that ultimately there's good return on that investment over time. But at the end of the day, what's it tied to? Is it tied to a 12-month or an 18-month ROI? And when that disappears, right, so does the investment, and so does the community initiative. Or is it tied to your purpose as an owner and someone running a business? Is it tied to your purpose as a Christ follower to conduct your business that way and love on your neighbor that way, so that when the tide goes out, the ministry doesn't go out too, right? It's tied to something much deeper than that. And the more that you can root yourself in that purpose and build a culture and an organization around that purpose and build stakeholders around that purpose, you become strapped to the mast. You become ingrained in it in a way that is healthy, that is good, so that when things change, and they will, it's not the first thing to go, right? I think that is the competitive edge that we have, is that it's wound up much more in who we are and what our identity is than it is in ROI or a P&L.